And there's a new poll out that I'm going to cover on the program today. 73% of people agree that if you enter the country illegally, you've broken the law. And that's an amazing poll, which shows that 73% of people agree with President Trump. So here we are. I mean, that's like 3/4 of the country agreeing with President Trump when it comes to the illegals in this country, which is just phenomenal. It really backs up the success of the Melania movie. And, if you'd have taken that poll a couple years ago, it wouldn't be 73%. There's been a great awakening in this country, and people are really fed up. What Nick Shirley did in Minneapolis exposed so much about these people coming to the country and just ripping us off. And now that Nick Shirley and Fox and Benny Johnson are in California doing investigative reporting into fraud out there, the Democrats are in such big trouble in these midterms. They're in big trouble. And they have no hope to get out of it because they won't change their positions on any of these issues. They just won't give an inch, which is a good thing, right? We don't want them to wise up. And everything is looking good towards a MAGA Trump midterm election victory. My name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe if you are new. And I'm also going to start the show today talking about Dan Bongino's return and what that's all about and what's going on here. And that'll be a big thing I cover at the beginning of the program today. And then I'll get into this poll that shows 73% of people agree with Trump about the illegals, which is a great new poll, and a bunch of other things too. And it's still cold. It's warmer today than yesterday. It's 42 degrees in sunny South Florida, so it's about 10 degrees warmer than yesterday. But it's still damn cold, I tell you. I don't like this cold at all. Just don't like it. So there's a lot of good things to cover today on the program, and I will cover them all and take your calls. And if you notice, since President Trump sent Tom Homan into Minnesota, we're not having nonstop violence in Minnesota dominating the news. If you notice, that is completely stopped. I'm not saying there aren't protesters there, but it's no longer dominating the news cycle, which is very good news. And then a few other things I want to cover today. I've been telling you that Don Lemon, it's going to do Don Lemon in more than anything with these charges he's facing. He can't keep his mouth shut. And he went on Jimmy Kimmel and was just so incredibly arrogant on Kimmel. Just arrogant. He told this story, Don Lemon, about the FBI. They came up to him, and he was just snarky with them. He's like, well, where's your warrant? And then they had to go get his warrant. They had to go get a supervisor and get the warrant. And then because they were so unpolite with him while they're arresting him, his glasses fell on the ground. They showed him the warrant on a cell phone, but since he didn't have his glasses on, he couldn't read the warrant. This guy was obstructing justice, obstructing these federal agents when they were arresting him like nobody's business. And it's that Don Lemon arrogance. Don Lemon is so in love with himself. He's so arrogant. He feels he's so above the law. And he thinks he's so important that his big mouth is going to land him in jail on top of the criminal charges because he's doing himself in. And, I told you he would not be able to stop doing interviews. Here he is on Kimmel, running his mouth. So, I think he forgets that this indictment came from a grand jury in Minnesota, which is where they get the jury members for a criminal trial. And there's going to be more arrests. Everybody that went in that church is Gandhi. is he's truly in. Really. I just don't think that he does. Yeah. So I hope he keeps doing these interviews. The one with Jimmy Kimmel was just devastating, I think, to him. And also, I think I might have finally broken my Starbucks habit. I donuts. A new Dunkin' Donuts opened that's actually closer to me than the Starbucks I go to. And I have not gone to Dunkin' Donuts in years. I started going to Starbucks during the lockdowns. My daughter got me hooked on Starbucks. Right? And, oh boy. So this, and my wife's like, well, why don't you try Dunkin' Donuts? And I said, well, I don't like Starbucks. I don't really even like coffee. But the Venti Hot Americano has high caffeine content. And I told I said, they don't have the same coffee at Dunkin' Donuts that they have at Starbucks with the and she pulled up the menu online, and sure enough, the large they have a large Americano, which has is espresso, and the large Americano at Starbucks has more caffeine in it than the Starbucks Americano large, and it's cheaper. It's cheaper, so a lot cheaper. So and I started on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Today's Tuesday. I haven't had any caffeine withdrawals. This is day 4, so it's got the good caffeine content, and it will cut my coffee spending down by 50%, which is a lot of money. 50% savings on coffee. So I'm very excited about that. So I wish the new location is not open 24 hours though. They don't open till 5 a.m. What happened to the days of having 24-hour Dunkin' Donuts coffee? But not only is it about half the price of the Starbucks, it has more caffeine in it, and tell you the truth, it tastes better. It just tastes better. So, hoping it continues. I'm very excited. Well, the money savings is good, and I hate going to Starbucks. But they still don't open till 5. If they were open earlier, it would help me out a lot. But I haven't been to Dunkin' in so long since the last time I was there. It's been so many years, and now they have this new coffee. So, oh well. And I don't feel like at Dunkin', I don't feel like I have to be as undercover. Like I went in there yesterday with my Trump sweatshirt on, so I don't feel like I have to hide, the MAGA stuff as much as at Starbucks. Anyway, there's a lot of great news to talk about today, and Don Lemon's chances of going to prison increase every time he does an interview. He just can't help himself. Now, if they get a judge that puts in a gag order, I don't know what Don Lemon's going to do. If he gets a gag order, what will he do? He won't be able to talk about any of it. And he's all excited now because he's relevant and people want to talk to him now. Right? America runs on Dunkin'. Absolutely. I guess it does. I wish I didn't have to drink coffee, but to do a morning show, I need the caffeine. I'd love to kick the coffee habit. I've tried, believe me. I have tried. But this will help a lot. Cutting my coffee expense down by 50%. Oh my goodness. That's huge, guys. That is huge. It tastes better. That's the other thing. It tastes better. I know. It's what it is. There's worse things to be addicted to than coffee. But so anyway, I'm going to start with the Bongino story because there's an important thing about Dan Bongino's return, And I think he's on a mission to do something, which I'll share when I open up the show today, because that's going to be my lead story. So I'm going to start with Bongino, because that's a big story. After that, I'm going to get into the poll. 73% the illegals. That'll be the second story. And then I'll get into other things too, but then I'll get into Don Lemon after that. So those are the three main stories that I'll be running with today. Maybe in that order. I'm definitely going to start with the Bongino, because I already have the video set up. It has Bongino in the thumbnail, because Bongino is on a very important mission, and I'll tell you what that is when the next stream starts. Okay, so make sure you're subscribed and got the notification bell clicked. I don't know how you people around the country handle these cold temperatures. We're so spoiled in Florida. I mean, hopefully this will be the last day. We might have one more day of this cold weather, but I don't like it. This is not what we like in Florida. When I play the audio of Don Lemon telling Jimmy Kimmel about his arrest, it's insane. He is so freaking arrogant, Don Lemon. The arrogance of Don Lemon when the feds picked him up, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And I understand when they first came up to him, he was probably surprised, like, what's going on here? But when he's demanding the warrant, and then he couldn't see the warrant because he dropped his glasses and all this stuff, and then he's going out there trashing, I mean, it is just stupid of him. Just incredibly stupid. You know what it reminds me of? What Don Lemon's doing? It reminds me of John Gotti. Remember John Gotti? He was walking around. If you don't know about John Gotti, look him up, okay? Just a nutcase. He's walking around New York City. The cops are on his tail, and he's all flashy. He's out in front of the cameras. He's in the media. And look what happened to John Gotti. He ended up in prison because of his love affair of media attention. He just couldn't control himself, and it landed him in prison. That and FBI recordings of him talking about crimes. He wasn't a Teflon Don. He ended up in prison. He thought he was a Teflon Don, and Don Lemon thinks he's the Teflon Don Lemon, and he's not. He's not at all, but he thinks he is. So I'll go through all this stuff on the show today. It just dumb. Mm-hmm. Well, he's got an arrogance that celebrities don't go to jail, right? And I understand what he's talking about. I mean, Robert Blake and got away with murdering his wife, and Alec Baldwin shot a woman dead and shot the director, and he didn't go to jail. So Don Lemon feels that, he's a celebrity, so as a celebrity, he can get away with crime. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that. But Alec Baldwin didn't run around this arrogant about what he did. Yeah, O.J. Simpson. Well, O.J. Simpson went to prison, if you remember. What was it, 8 years he did? 6 years, 8 years he did in that hotel room incident? He didn't go to prison for the murders, but he went to prison later. And life was not good for O.J. What'll happen to Don Lemon if he beats the rap criminally? That church and people from the church are going to go after him civilly, and they'll win a huge settlement against him for terrorizing them and their children. And he'll be like O.J. He'll be broke. That's what will happen to Don Lemon. Don Lemon may have dementia. If you saw him on Jimmy Kimmel, he did look like he was suffering from dementia. No doubt about it. Mm-hmm. But O.J. lost that civil suit too, and the civil suit really was the beginning of the end for him, because he couldn't make money. He had his NFL pension that they couldn't touch for some reason. You know, but that wasn't enough to live like he was living. He played in the NFL before they made the big bucks. You know? If you're new, make sure you subscribe. This is where MAGA comes to talk, all right? And on the next stream, I'll break down all of this stuff in detail and take your calls. You're all welcome to call me when I'm in the studio. Now, I'm just in the car keeping warm. Before I came out to the car, and I don't know if you guys do this in the cold states, but I started the car up about 20, 25 minutes before I came out to the car, and I had the heat on and the seat heater and the steering wheel heater on to warm it up, so when I got in here, it's nice and toasty. But I am not built for this 42-degree weather. Yesterday, it was 32 degrees. Wind chill was in the 20s. Right now, it's 42 with the wind chill somewhere in the 30s. Don Lemon is, the chances of him beating these charges are not good. He's likely to go to prison over this because he won't stop talking. And the more that he talks, the more damage he does. Like this Jimmy Kimmel interview. See, what happens is, for him to keep talking about it, he's got to have something new to say. So he'll keep adding and adding and adding and just digging a hole. And these interviews are like confessions, right? You have a right to remain silent, and he's not doing that. And all these interviews that he does, or podcast that he hosts, all of this, as well as the video of that day, will be entered into evidence by the prosecution if he says things that he's incriminating himself all the time. And it will get worse the longer this goes on. I hope the judge in this case doesn't issue a gag order, because he's really doing a good job for the prosecution, Don Lemon. 26 2 mornings ago in Vero. Yeah, it was in the about 31 degrees the other morning, and in the low to mid-20s wind chill. I'm just not built for it. Oh no, Trump's not a criminal. That's the difference. He's the president of the United States. If you haven't noticed. But Tom Homan really has cooled things off in Minnesota, hasn't he? You're not hearing from Minneapolis every day. When's the last time you saw Fry or Waltz at a press conference? Tom Homan has really taken control of the Minnesota deportation situation. Whatever he's doing there, it's working very, very well. Yeah, I got a busy, busy day today. Today I woke up at 2. To do my show prep. I'm starving this morning, but I'm not usually hungry in the morning, but I don't eat before I go on the air. I eat after. If I eat before I go on the air, I just get really tired, so I don't eat before the show. But the 3 hours will go by quick. Luckily. I'll eat right after, but I am starving. I'm not usually hungry in the morning. I went to bed really early last night. I went to bed super, super early. Waltz and Ellison. Yeah, these congressional hearings, I never expect much out of them. Like the Clintons are going to testify now. I just don't expect much out of congressional hearings. Very few of them go anywhere. It's a lot of showboating by congressmen that are, up for re-election. Right? So I don't pay too much attention to congressional hearings. I mean, look at the one the other day with Jack Smith, all high profile. What came out of that? Nothing. There weren't even really good sound bites out of it. I mean, there weren't really any good moments. He had this tactic he tried to use where he would ask people to repeat what they asked, like he couldn't hear them, to try to eat out the clock. So stupid. Waltz will be entertaining. Waltz is pretty arrogant, and I don't buy that he's stupid. I think that's an act that he puts on. That all shucks Midwestern thing he does is all fake. Tim Waltz and Fry are in big trouble. Keith Ellison's a creep. CCP trained, absolutely. It's like remember The Americans, that TV show on FX about the Soviet spies? That's Tim Waltz, updated for the CCP. A caffeine tablet, forget about that. No, but I'm not that bad with the caffeine. But I am behind on my coffee this morning, I must say. But I don't know, before all the lockdowns, so many things were open 24 hours. Dunkin' used to be open 24 hours. Walmart used to be open 24 hours. And since the lockdowns, nothing's open 24 hours anymore. And I'm a early morning guy. If Dunkin' was open 24 hours, probably what I would do is I would get up in the morning and shower, and I'd go there and do my show prep from there, drinking coffee in the morning from Dunkin', is what I would do if they were open 24 hours. But they don't open till 5. It's not dangerous where I live. I'm in a nice area, and it's a nice neighborhood. It wouldn't be, it's too dangerous to be open 24 hours. I used to love going to Walmart in the middle of the night. I'd go to Walmart all the time at 3 or 4 in the morning, 2 in the morning. It was great. And I used to go to Dunkin'. Years ago when I used to go to Dunkin' Donuts, I used to go to Dunkin' Donuts early in the morning. But I missed the 24 hours. In Japan, I was watching there's a show, I used to watch it, I haven't seen it in a long time, it's called Cool Japan. It was a pretty good show. And it was a show about foreigners living in Japan, and they would do all these things. Barbershops are open 24 hours a day in Japan. I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. You could get a haircut. I'd love to go get a haircut at 3 in the morning. That'd be awesome. It can be dangerous depending on where you're at. No doubt about that. Drop the mic. Hold on. Okay. All right, let's go. Let's drive to Dunkin'. All right, join me. Have you seen all of these stories about the iguanas that people are rounding up in Florida because of the cold? I haven't seen a single iguana lying on the ground in my neighborhood. But if you watch all of those news stories, none of them have said what they're doing with the iguanas, really, that people are turning in. I saw one local news story yesterday that said they're euthanizing them and turning them into products for people to buy. What does that mean? And how are they euthanizing them? Iguanas are, they're considered an invasive species in Florida. Them and the pythons. And the reason we have so many iguanas and pythons in Florida is back in the 90s, there was a fad of iguana and pythons as pets. And people didn't realize how big they got. So when they get too big for the tank they had them in, the iguanas, and they would just release them out into neighborhoods. And the pythons would get so big, people were afraid of them. So they would drive out to the Everglades and dump them off in the Everglades. Well, pythons and iguanas lay so many eggs. And some of these iguanas get to be the size of small alligators. I mean, I've seen some pretty massive iguanas. There's a lake in my development, and the people that live along the lake have iguanas. They live in the trees. And when it freezes, they fall out of the trees. But I don't live on the lake. You don't want to. I don't want to live on a lake. There's gators and things. But I've seen some iguanas that are, I mean, massive. And I saw one that got hit by a car on the road down the street from my house, and it was filled with eggs, and it split open. I mean, I don't know how many. It must have been hundreds of eggs inside that iguana. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. So all these people that are rounding up iguanas, I don't think it's going to make a dent. Now the pythons that people released in the Everglades, those are a big problem because the iguanas are a problem because they're pests. They eat everybody's plants in their yard, trees, flowers. They're just a pest, and they multiply at the top of the food chain. You can go on YouTube and see videos of pythons fighting gators, and the python will win. Which is completely crazy. It's pretty bad, but that's what happens. But they're not having people round up pythons. People do go out and catch pythons, but it's a big problem. And it's all because people were keeping them as pets in the 90s. They're harmless. They multiply like I wouldn't believe. I mean, it's great. The lake in my development, they have a lot. Sometimes you can drive down the road. You know, in Florida, on all of our roads, we have canals on the sides of the roads. You know, and nonstop on the bank, you'll see iguanas because they've messed up the whole food chain. I mean, now that he's back, I want to talk about that. Yesterday was his first show. We had the president on, but he's on a very important man. I want to cover that. The new poll that shows 73% of Americans agree with President Trump about the illegals. So they got 3/4 of Americans are agreeing with Trump. I'm going to cover that. Interview with Jimmy Kimmel. I've got a bunch of other things too, but those are the three topics I'm going to cover in the beginning of the show, because there's, I guess, the three top stories that I want to discuss and take your call. So make sure you subscribe.